2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
Let's talk plant medicine.
Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast.
I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler.
We're brothers.
We're therapists.
And we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey, Tyler, you ready to have some hard conversations?
Let's do it.
Let the Therapy Brothers podcast begin.
Brannon, one of your favorite topics today. We got a caller that's coming on to ask some questions, so that's going to be good.
I love it. I think he's teeing me up a little bit to be able to talk.
I think so. Before we do that, though, there's one thing we have to do first, and this is in honor of you and in honor of our brother-in-law, Joey. It's somebody's birthday right here in this room.
You don't even know it.
It's somebody's birthday. I wonder if I know. So look all around you for somebody who is laughing and smiling. My goodness, it's you.
Wow. Please don't sing the whole
happy birthday, Brannon. I can't do that. We'll lose all our listeners if I keep going. So
yes.
No, happy birthday, man. I'm glad you're here today, and I'm glad you were born, and everything you offer to the world, man. You're a gift. So happy birthday, Brannon.
Hey, thanks, bro. Appreciate it.
Sorry to everyone else who had to listen to that.
I'm gonna go back and listen to it over and over. I loved it.
I bet you did. I saw you cringing. So,
well, should we get into it?
Let's do it, man.
Okay, Ben, welcome back to the show.
Hey guys, good to be here. Background for this question is that it was probably about it was sometime last summer. I was listening to the Addicted Mind podcast, and he had a guest on there that talked about ayahuasca and specifically talked about that as a specific treatment. Mostly the literature shows a lot of benefits for opiates and alcohol addiction. And in that, they talked about behavior addictions. And if I remember correctly, they mentioned sex addiction specifically. And so that kind of piqued my interest about the benefits of it. And I would say that I've casually been looking into it. And mostly what I wanted to talk about is, how do you pursue safely engaging in plant medicine for therapy? What are the types of things that you want to look for? And how do you decide which option is best for you?
Okay. These are really good questions. And before I answer that, Ben, I just want to kind of qualify some things, because people might be thinking like, why does Brannon have any knowledge on this or expertise? And I don't know if I'd say I'm the expert on this by any means, but I have gone down to retreats in Peru myself. I've taken groups down to retreats in Peru. I've also been trained. I got some pretty extensive training. It was about a 8-week long training about plant medicine and therapy. And then I've been to it was called the MAPS conference, the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Science conference in Denver that just happened actually last month. And I spent a week there. And so I've been getting trained, I've been studying, I've been really trying to understand plant medicine and its uses in therapy. And I've also experienced it on a personal level. So just to say that, I want people to understand that I really am like seeking this and learning and growing in this area. So I think I can answer some of your questions. So let's start with, let's back up a little bit. One of your questions, Ben, was how do I know kind of what to do and if it's safe, right? Was that one of your questions?
Right, because as I understand it, each, just like any other sort of medical treatment or anything, each has their own, their own section of their own strengths and their own weaknesses, as far as things that they can help with, things that they may not be able to help as much with.
Yeah. So, there's
Brannon,
yeah, go ahead.
I almost wonder, and maybe this is where you're going, but I know that there's going to be a lot of people on this show who are even stepping into the stream at an even further upstream place than either you or Ben is right now. Maybe we need to back up just a little bit and explain plant medicine a little bit, explain kind of what's been happening in the field, what are the primary ones that are being talked about the most, and then kind of get into the rest of the questions.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Tyler, if I were to ask you, like when you think about psychedelics, what do you think about?
Yeah, I mean, originally when people started saying, "Hey, let's do psychedelic medicine," I think acid. Let's go drop acid.
You think about that
LSD.
rave you went to in high school?
I think about the one rave that I went to when I was a senior in high school, and like just that experience there, and I'm like, I don't see how that could be therapeutic at all.
Right, everyone's dropping acid,
but that's not what we're talking about here today. Even though some of the same chemicals and compounds might still be in play and involved here.
Yeah.
And, and I'm probably the one who I've definitely had some interest, but I've been researching, I would say, more from afar than you have, Brannon. And so maybe I'll just mention my level of kind of experience with the basics of the things that I hear the most about and that are being researched the most. And then you guys can step in and add in some of the things that you're talking about. Does that sound all right?
Sure.
So, so the things that I think I hear the most about are, you hear about ayahuasca, you hear about San Pedro, you hear about, and the biggest one that I hear the most about right now is psilocybin, right? Yep. And all of those have actually been getting actual real research behind them for some time now. And they're each showing some benefits for certain types of problems right now, especially with certain kinds of dosing and certain kinds of protocol that go with the dosing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? And It could help anything from PTSD. There's a lot of research right now that's showing a whole lot of benefit for even just a single treatment of psilocybin for depression. And then, of course, things like addiction, other forms of trauma, and then the other basic mental health, anxiety, depression kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yep. So in order to kind of get there, Tyler, what you just said, we have to overcome some of the stigma around psychedelics. So we were in our generation especially was beaten to our heads, like, just say no, drugs are drugs. And if you think that way, then it's really hard to be open to some of these things that I believe are very useful. And there's a big difference, a huge difference between psilocybin and say crack or meth. And for them to be thrown in the same category is, in my mind, crazy. And so, but they are for many people. There's LSD, mushrooms, crack, meth, whatever. Like, they're all just drugs. Most psychedelics, and I think pretty much all plant medicines are, for the most part, non-addictive and non-lethal. They're nothing like opiates and those type of things. So it doesn't mean that you can't numb out. It doesn't mean that you can't escape life with them. You can, but they're non-addictive and they're non-lethal. Now, some psychedelics, ketamine, can be addictive, but it's not very addictive, but it can be. I think ecstasy or MDMA can be addictive. So you got to be cautious with some of them. And the ones that I'm mentioning are the synthetics. They're the man-made ones that I wouldn't consider myself. I wouldn't consider plant medicine. So I think those are some things to just understand some background. I'm glad you brought that up, Tyler. And there is an array of different drugs and different medicines, and they're used for different things. So yeah, that's kind of where it's at right now. Ketamine is the only legal one here in the States. And the reason ketamine is legal is because it's an off-label drug. It was approved by the FDA for anesthesia. You've probably used ketamine, Ben, in your work quite a bit.
I sure have. It's one of my favorite medications.
Yeah, it's a really useful anesthetic. That story of them getting the boys out of the cave in Thailand, they used ketamine to sedate them to get them out of the cave. But it's showing, and research is showing, massive benefits for depression. And a lot of the benefits for depression isn't like the spiritual experience that you have with the psychedelic part of it, although that's awesome and that helps people. It's beyond that. It fertilizes your brain, they say. It lasts for months if you take ketamine to help with depression. So it's great. And it's working. So that's ketamine. Ketamine's a synthetic. So plant medicine. So like, to come back to your question a little bit, Ben, if I was struggling with a pretty severe case of depression, I would consult a doctor who's open and who's not just going to give you an SSRI. But I'd consult with a doctor about the possible use of ketamine for my depression treatment if my depression was pretty severe. They use ketamine for the severe cases of depression. So that's just one example. That's ketamine, right? How do I go down the list? Let's see. Another side note, MDMA is they're really close to having it approved by the FDA. They spent $500 million, a ton of research to approve it for the treatment of PTSD. And
Brannon, another one with MDMA. This is a really just kind of an interesting one that'll hit home for several of our listeners. Is a research study they did. It was a single dose of MDMA. The only people they could find that didn't have other like drugs in their system to control for, like alcohol or things, was a subgroup of women who were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And what they found is that a single dose treatment, of course, obviously it's not a treatment. You don't just go get MDMA off the streets. A single dose of MDMA actually helped with depression outcomes a year later, up to a year later.
Yeah. So that's pretty crazy. They got a bunch of Mormons doing Molly.
Adds new meaning to the term Molly Mormon, huh?
Yeah. Seriously. So MDMA, it's interesting too. Just I know I'm going off. They're approving MDMA. It's this, when I went to the MAPS conference, it was this weird conglomerate of doctors and businesses just chomping at the bit to make a ton of money off of this because it works in many ways. And then there's the other side of it, which is the indigenous community, who have been using it for generations, and it's kind of nothing new to them. And so, they've been dosing it through shamanic ceremony. It's very sacred, very spiritual, very connected to their culture, which is very different than coming to a doctor's office and getting hooked up with an IV. And so it's interesting, kind of the dynamics of the industry right now. And to kind of see where this is going to go is going to be fascinating. So it's like Western medicine mixing with the Eastern philosophies and all kinds of things. And it's like, how are they going to incorporate this in an effective way, in a safe way? Right. So, man, I'm talking a lot. So what,
You're good.
Let's come back to your question, Ben. How do I know what's good for me? Basically, is that what you're wondering?
Yeah, basically, because personally, I mean, I've been depressed. I don't feel like I have bad depression. So I don't think ketamine is really going to be something that'll work well for me. Psilocybin also, I don't feel it is a good option for me because, again, I don't really feel like like depression, PTSD, like there's a lot of those emotional things that weigh heavy on me. I'm interested and intrigued in exploring plant medicine because of the benefits that I've heard about it, being able to open up blockages in the past and being able to understand myself better.
Trauma work, kind of, and
Right.
understanding you. And yeah, so I think you've done good research. Psilocybin, it can work for what you're talking about. So psilocybin, a lot of people are microdosing right now for depression treatment. And I was reading some research on that, and I don't know how accurate this is or not, but they said that that the benefits of microdosing psilocybin for depression is pretty remarkable, and most of the benefit is placebo effect, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But still, have you ever heard of the hero's dose? Do you know what that is?
No.
I think it's like 5 milligrams or something. I don't know exactly. I'm not a doctor. Don't quote me.
It's a big dose.
So if you do psilocybin in the dark and you do a large dose of it, they call it the hero's dose because it's so it works you. It works parts. Your ego kind of goes away and you're left with nothing but your soul, and your mind is battling it. And you can see beautiful things, but you can also have a bad trip on the psilocybin. And I know people whose lives have been changed drastically. They weren't using psilocybin for depression. They just had an experience where they were able to release some things and do some trauma work because of that psilocybin journey. So psilocybin is used for that. And it's not just used for the depression. The other thing,
Brannon, just really quickly, some of the research on that, just to kind of go along with it before you move on to other things, is that what they are finding is that 1 time or 2 time dosage of the bigger dose is actually producing better outcomes than the micro dosing of the psilocybin when it comes to things like trauma. And then there's also a protocol that is being shown to be more effective, which includes specific kinds of music in the dark over the course of the time. And so you're actually going to a place where you're safe, where there's actually sort of this protocol that gets followed. It's not just grow some mushrooms in the backyard with your family and then call it, treatment.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brannon. go ahead.
Well, you bring something up, and Ben, I think this is good to answer your question. It's like some of this stuff can seem like woo-woo out there, weird, whatever. But I think that the set and the setting of where you do it is just as important as the medicine that you take. And the one for the shaman to be if a shaman is the one that's facilitating this, or if it's a doctor or whatever, that they're very connected, and very aware of the energy in the space, and also really creating safety is important. You can go down to a lot of retreat centers that are very unprofessional. You don't know what you're going to get. There's not much oversight, and you got to be careful. So, and also there's something about that spiritual part to the healing. It's not just, hey, I take this medicine and voila, I get better. It's not like an antibiotic. And so yeah, Tyler, you're absolutely right. I'm glad you brought that up. So, which leads back to your question of like, well, how do I find that?
Yeah. Well, and Brannon, you were kind of on psilocybin, you were moving to other medicines too. So I didn't mean to derail you, but
yeah. So I've done an ayahuasca journey, and it was profoundly, it was amazing. It was impactful to my life. And I just want to say that first before I say the ayahuasca thing is kind of driving me nuts, because it's like the trendy big one to do.
Right.
And ayahuasca is amazing, but what I'm seeing is that people hear like, oh, you did an ayahuasca journey, so it's just getting popular. And because it's popular now, I'm going forward and doing an ayahuasca journey. Whereas another medicine might be more appropriate and better for you than the ayahuasca. So like psilocybin and ayahuasca are the things that, like, if you just talk underground here just a little bit about what people are doing, that's what you'll find a lot of. But Ben, I think you're really smart to back up and say, okay, hang on here. Like, what do I actually need? And if you research a little bit, there are big differences. So ayahuasca is, I think the chemical in it is DMT, and I don't know exactly how to say the big long word that stands for. They produce DMT synthetically as well, but ayahuasca is done more at night. It's much more kind of in your head, and I can't explain it unless you've done it. It's more in your head, the hallucinogens that you have, the experiences that you have. You don't need to see a lot of things. Music was really important for me, and I had a physical reaction to the ayahuasca that was pretty strong, and I actually feel like it helped me physically, and people have used it for that before. I was holding a lot of trauma in my body from doing therapy for so many years for people, and it flushed stuff out of my body in every way that it possibly could. And so it was really good for me, but it was really hard. And it was about 4 hours that I was, that the ayahuasca was working on me. Some people will do like ayahuasca 7 days in a row, and I don't know how they do that. I would die. I don't know how they do that. The mescaline, or the San Pedro, which is a cactus grown in Peru, was done during the day, and the journey's much longer. And I kind of felt it all throughout my body. And you have some pretty powerful things happen. You have like the clouds talking to you type things happening. You're looking up at the clouds, and I looked up at once, and there was like Goofy, it's like, oh, hey, Goofy. And he was like talking to me in the cloud. So there's like that type of hallucinating going on. But then there's like the deep spiritual teaching and experiences that I had. And the mescaline, it taught me specific things about my marriage, about my children, about God. I saw Tyler. This is going to sound really weird, but I saw what color Tyler's energy is. up in the mountain that I was looking at. I know that sounds weird, but it just this appreciate, and also a word associated to Tyler, that was just, you know, like my one brother was the color orange, and his word was loyalty. That's Rex. Tyler was love and gratitude, and his color was kind of greenish. So I know this sounds weird, but like what these medicines do, and what the mescaline did for me, and the ayahuasca did it too, but that was a battle, is it removes your ego, and then you just feel God, and you feel connection to the earth like you've never felt it when it's done in the right setting. And all of the like thinking and protective parts and the things that we've done forever. I mean, you have a ton of secondary trauma, Ben. I know you do. And for me, I couldn't find anything to flush out my secondary trauma that I had taken on for years. And there was a part in my journey that I won't get into the specifics with, but it was a very important part of my journey that happened where I was able to release so much from all of my clients, and just I finally felt the weight lifted. But what's interesting is I didn't realize how I was holding on to it, and how I was holding on to it was my ego. My ego was there holding on to it. My soul was ready to relinquish. And so anyways, I'm going off. The mescaline was much longer. It was done during the day. Ayahuasca was shorter, quicker, really powerful, done at night. And both the mescaline, I call it mescaline, San Pedro, or they call it Huachuma. Both of them, the ayahuasca and the San Pedro, were really important for trauma healing. And that's when I went to Peru and I came home and I was like, I'm doing EMDR. I'm doing, I want to get trained in ART. How can I not talk about this thing that has been so amazing for me in my life? So yeah, I think you need to kind of research what is the experience like. And what are you really going for? So I don't know if I'm answering your question, Ben.
No, I think it's helpful. I think one thing is that, with my background being in Western medicine, it's like, okay, what's the certifying board for ayahuasca?
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly, because there isn't. So like if I'm looking at going to a retreat, you mentioned that setting and space are super important. But what other things would you recommend looking for if you're looking to go to a retreat?
So the certifying board that you'll find is reviews. So
okay.
And what I mean by that is like for example, Costa Rica has a lot of retreat centers where they do ayahuasca and they do San Pedro, and there's one down in Costa Rica called Rhythmia that's really legit. I think it's pretty expensive, but you can hop online and really find a lot of reviews, people who have gone down there, videos about people whose lives have been changed. So you want to see that other people have had good experience there. And so that's one thing. It doesn't hurt to have a friend who's gone to a certain place and trust that place, a friend that you trust. What I wouldn't do is Google ayahuasca retreat and, some place in Mexico pops up and I'm there the next weekend. Like, I would not do that. Because there's a ton of them.
There's a lot of, Brannon, there's a lot of centers too that do it, that will actually do a lot of pre-care as well. Like they'll actually have you do certain therapies beforehand. They'll have you answer a certain set of battery of questions. There's a lot of places that are more legit than others. And I don't think that price is the thing that you necessarily make your decision on with this.
Yeah. Yeah. There's 3 phases to it. and there's prep. So it's preparation, dosing, and then integration. And if they have no preparation phase to it, I would steer clear. So I knew that I had to fast for a certain amount of time before I took the medicine. I knew the set and the setting. It was a compound with a big wall. And then I really got to know the shaman who was very indigenous and just from Peru. He grew his own San Pedro at a certain elevation in the Andes. So those things made me feel safer. I also knew I was recommended by somebody that I really trusted to go there. So, yeah.
I think it's interesting. Yeah. We're talking with a doctor, Western medicine kind of doctor, who's looking at this, and I think, Ben, you're in an interesting position because the direction that all of this is going is that it's going to eventually become westernized in some way, right? It's only a matter of time. And I don't know what you're thinking, Brannon, but it's only a matter of time until the pharmaceutical companies get a hold of this kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden it's a big business, and it's on the way that direction. And I tend to be a little bit more conservative than you, Brannon, where I'm kind of waiting for the research to bear itself out. I'm not opposed to it, but I kind of want to have that backing before I go and do something like that. And Ben, you're kind of right between Brannon and I think, where you're saying, I live in this world. I know that there's something to this. I want to go and explore it, but I want to do it in a safe way and in a way that's going to be most beneficial for me. And right now we're riding the edge of a wave, I think, where eventually
give this 5-10 years and everything's going to change about it.
Yeah.
The last MAPS conference, there was 3,000 people there. This one, there was 12,000 people there. So you can just see like the energy that's happening here, but also they're trying to sort it out, figure it out, how it's all going to work in terms of legalities and business and those type of things.
I do think just one thing really to mention, and then maybe come back to your question for a second, Ben, that I've been one who's been I tend to be slower on the uptake on all of these kinds of things. I was slow on the uptake to EMDR. I'm slow on the uptake to this. That's just my personality type a little bit. So I tend to look for the risks and the problems. And what I hear about is people going down without it actually being a certain type of protocol. That is a big risk for people, and they have bad experiences that way. The other thing that the research is bearing out, that if you were to look at like maybe the biggest risk, is that if you have a back history in your family tree of significant mental problems like bipolar, schizophrenia, those kinds of things, that would be considered a risk factor for this kind of treatment. So there are some, it's not like everything is like, full send.
If you're on an SSRI or certain meds, like you don't want to go down and do the plant medicine.
It's not just like a go free for all. There are some things you want to think about, and you want to make sure that you're accounting for those things and know that there is some type of a risk that's also being seen if you have significant mental health issues, right?
Yep.
But aside from that, I think doing the best you can to research the type of experience you want to have, which type of plant-based medicine is going to best suit your needs, which it sounds like, Ben, you're leaning more towards something like ayahuasca. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. From what I've from research that I've done, I feel like that that's going to get the journey that I'm looking for, and basically it's like what Brandon was saying, remove those barriers and really get a clear, frank look at myself.
One thing I want to add to what you just said, Ben, and just acknowledge is, we're talking about these medicines like it's not a magic pill. So what I mean is, a lot of people think that. A lot of people, I'm talking about my profound experience and la-di-da. Like the research shows that the experience with the medicine can really open you up and change your life, but it actually doesn't really change your life. What does is integration. So if you go down to Peru and you have this deep spiritual experience and you understand the nature of life so much more, and you go right back to your job, you go right back to your family, you go right back to all of the inputs in your life, and you make no changes in your life whatsoever, you're going to fall right back into the same ruts. You'll just have a deeper understanding of life, but you'll be right back in the same ruts, right? So if, like, when I went to Peru, I had my journey. That's when I shut my caseload down. That's when I started doing like 1 session, 2 sessions a month.
Brannon went from doing like 30 sessions a week to like 4 sessions a week after he came home.
Yeah.
He had this change in like his whole like approach to life.
Yeah. But if I had just stuck with 30 sessions a week right then, I don't think I'd still be burned out. I'd still, in a lot of ways, just be shutting down physically. And so like I had to make some big changes in my life. And so that's the most therapeutic thing, is you have the awakening, your ego is removed, but then you are willing to actually step into making those hard changes is really important.
Ben, I don't know if we've even scratched the surface on what you want to talk about yet today. What's going through you right now? What's on your mind?
Well, actually, this has been really helpful, and a part of my intent wasn't necessarily for me, but as I've listened to several different podcasts that have talked about plant medicine, it's always come up in my mind. Okay, that's great that you've discovered this. Like, how did you go through and discover what was right for you, and how did you do that, and what are the things that you want to look for when you're considering a plant medicine journey and that type of experience? And so I definitely feel like we're getting into those answers. And I think the biggest thing is doing your research, and doing the work on yourself to understand that it's a tool, and to be ready to use that tool.
Yep. One guy at the conference said, and he was a medical doctor, and he said, look, you don't prescribe plant medicine. Plant medicine calls to the person who needs it. And I really like that, because I don't think that, like, I should tell you, Ben, like, hey, go do ayahuasca, right? Like, you like, go do psilocybin. That's exactly what you need. I think it's much better the way you're approaching it, where it's like, okay, like, this is calling to me in some way, but I want to step carefully here and understand it before I go forward with it. And I think if you stay on that path, you'll end up right where you need to be. So
I would also suggest, you've probably, a guy like you has already probably looked at this, but there's kind of the Huberman Lab podcast. There's several episodes now, I think 3 or 4 episodes on the Huberman Lab podcast, and about different kinds of psychedelics or plant-based medicines. And what I like about that format is, in essence, what you get is he does the lit review for you. So he goes and finds all of the research on this specific thing, and then he tells you every study, here's what they did, here was the protocol, here were the outcomes, here's what they're suggesting for it. And so you can kind of look at the actual research to go along with each of these things. And he's done all the legwork to go do the lit review. So you don't have to go look at every single article. You can kind of, and I think he has Dr. Carhart Harris on one, who's right at the forefront of like psychedelic medicines right now. And anyway, so he's got, I would bet you'd find 6 to 8 hours worth of podcast info of research-based lit review type stuff on this topic that would also help you kind of go, oh, if this was my issue, I would want to do this kind of protocol with this kind of drug. And I found that to be very helpful in the research that I've been doing on my own with this stuff as well. So just another resource you might check out if you haven't already.
There is kind of an ironic thing here, which is, I think doing your research and really studying up is important. And if you get too heady with this stuff, then like it's kind of an oxymoron, because
Mhm.
there is a jumping off point where you have to take the risk. You have to say, look, I don't know, because when the medicine starts to take a hold, you realize there's no way out. I'm in this for the next however long, and I
Mhm.
either can fight it, and I've heard of people who fight it, like, oh shoot, what did I do? Or I can just let go and surrender here. And so yeah, you could be an expert and research all day long. It was interesting at the conference, they said, who here has done plant medicine? Raise your hand. And we were at this MAPS conference, and I'd say a little less than half of the people raised their hand. Not to say they all should do it, but a lot of them know a lot about it, but have never experienced it. And at some point, if it's calling to you, to acknowledge that it's calling to you and to go forward and actually follow through with it is what needs to be done. You can study all day long. It's like reading self-help books, but never actually doing any of the self-help, So.
Right. And that's one of the things that I've noticed is kind of in my approach. Like I mentioned, I heard that podcast last summer, and that kind of piqued my interest. And it's not been an all-consuming research. Hey, I have to figure this out right now. And the way I've approached it is, I'm going to keep my heart open, and I'm going to keep my mind open, and things will come in, and there'll be a string of experiences, whether it be articles or podcasts where
Yep.
it'll be like, oh yeah, that's something. Okay, yeah, this connects with me. Great. Let me do a little bit more research. Okay, and then it'll fall away for a little while, and then it'll come back big. And the way I'm approaching it is that it's something that's interesting to me, and it's something that I can see that there will be benefits. And when the time is right, then I feel that the path will be open, and I'll be able to make the decision that's going to be best for me.
Yep. That's awesome, Ben. I like your approach.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that approach.
It's always a treat to have you on the show, Ben. I know that this is, I think, your third time now, not to mention our experience at the Rising Sun Retreat. So it's just always a pleasure to see your face and hear your voice, and you think things through in a deep way, and just so grateful that you're willing to come on and share yourself and your own journey the way that you do.
Absolutely.
Thanks. I really enjoy listening to you guys. And Brandon, probably one of my favorite podcasts was that one you just did, where you talked about your journey and how you got to where you are now in your approach to sex addiction and your beliefs on it. And I think what I liked most about it was that you own the fact that you had less effective ideas.
Yeah.
And a less effective approach, and you didn't beat yourself up about it. You said, kind of like, I was young and I grew from that.
Yeah. Wow. I needed to hear that today. That I really appreciate what you just said. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. We got just a minute left. Ben, any last thoughts, questions?
So probably the last thing I would say is the Rising Suns conference is definitely worth the time and investment. I've made some of the best friendships that I've ever made going there. And I know that Tyler, you and I talked about this, but we should probably look into getting a next step Rising Suns.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you mentioned
The
that
first
to me.
one. What's next?
Yeah, we need an advanced one or something.
If I can
Right.
just tie this together, the Rising Sun is about what we call bottom up healing. So it's not top down, and plant medicine is bottom up healing. So what that means is it's somatic, it's experiential. You feel something, and that does the healing. And that's why Rising Sun is so powerful, because Tyler and I do some talking, and we get a little heady, but we try not to. We just try to get out in nature and
try to have some experience,
have
together.
people connect, and it's the same thing with plant medicine. Like, you can't get too heady; it doesn't let you, and you're just feeling what you're feeling. So I'm a big believer. Talk about shifting in my philosophy, Ben. Back in the day, I was all in my head, just head. And I'm a big believer now in letting the soul knows how to heal itself. And we just need to figure out how to surrender so that we can get out of the way and let the soul do its work. And so yeah.
Thanks. Thank you, Ben. And thank you to our listeners who are listening here. Be interested to hear what your feedback and or further questions are. It's an interesting topic for sure. It's a promising field. So
yeah. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate y'all's time.